The smell hit Captain Zekthara first. It was the stench of fear and desperation that clung to every slave market in the galaxy, but something else mixed with it today. Something she had never encountered before. She walked through the crowded corridors of Korath Station, her purple skin marking her as a Kepler merchant among the dozens of species that called this place home. Korath Station orbited a dead star in neutral space, far from the reach of any galactic authority. It was a place where credits talked and morals stayed silent. Zekthara had been trading here for 15 years, and she knew the rules well. Keep your head down, make your deals, and never ask questions about the cargo. Today felt different, though. Word had spread through the merchant quarters about something special in the slave pens. Something that had the Korath Syndicate excited and nervous at the same time. Zekthara was curious by nature, a trait that had served her well in trade but poorly in keeping out of trouble. She found Lieutenant Vexenor waiting for her near the entrance to the lower levels. Her first officer was a thin, gray-skinned Altarian. With 4 arms and nervous habits, he was checking his datapad for the 3rd time in as many minutes. "Captain, perhaps we should focus on the engine parts we came for," Vexenor suggested, his voice carrying the high pitch that marked his species. "The Korath have been asking questions about who visits the slave pens." Zekthara ignored him and pressed her palm to the scanner. The heavy doors slid open with a hiss, revealing the dimly lit corridor beyond. The air was thick and humid, designed to keep the various species held here alive but not comfortable. She had walked these halls before, usually to purchase workers for dangerous mining operations. Today felt different. The pens were arranged in a grid pattern, each one designed to hold a specific type of being. Environmental controls adjusted temperature, atmosphere, and gravity to match the needs of whoever was trapped inside. Most of the cages held familiar species, Rigelians with their blue skin and 6 eyes, Centaurians with their horse-like lower, Baudas, and various other beings that had been captured or sold into slavery. Then she saw it. The creature stood in the center of a reinforced cage, its back straight despite the chains around its wrists and ankles. It was bipedal like herself, but shorter and more compact. Its skin was a pale pink color, darker in some places where bruises had formed. Short brown hair covered its head, and its clothing was torn and stained with something that looked like dried blood, but it was the eyes that made Zekthara stop walking. They were brown, almost amber in the dim light, and they held something she rarely saw in the slave pens: defiance, pure, unbroken defiance. "What species is that?" she asked Vexenor, who was consulting his datapad again. "The records show it as a human from a world called Earth," he replied. "The Korath captured it during a raid on some kind of survey vessel. They killed the rest of the crew, but this one fought so hard they decided to keep it alive." Zekthara stepped closer to the cage. The human noticed her approach and straightened further, if that was possible. It was male, she realized, noting the broader shoulders and facial structure. He was studying her with the same intensity she was studying. "Him? Dangerous?" she asked. "According to the guards, extremely so. They say it killed 3 Korath warriors with its bare hands before they managed to subdue it. The slavers are planning to sell it to the fighting pits on Nexus Prime." The fighting pits. Zekthara knew what that meant. The human would be forced to battle other creatures for the entertainment of paying customers. Most fighters lasted a few weeks at most before they were killed or died from their injuries. Looking at the human's size compared to some of the other species that fought in the pits, she doubted he would last even that long. A Korath guard approached them, his reptilian features twisted in what passed for a smile among his kind. "Interested in the human, merchant? The bidding starts at 50,000 credits. 50,000 credits. It was more than Zekthara made in a good year of trading. She was about to shake her head when the human spoke for the first time. "Please." The word was spoken in standard Galactic, but with an accent she had never heard before. "I just want to go home." The simple plea hit Zekthara like a physical blow. In all her years of trading, she had never heard a slave ask to go home. They usually begged for freedom, for food, for medical care. But this human just wanted to go home. "What is your name?" she asked in standard Galactic. "Jake Morrison," the human replied. I was the survey leader for the exploration vessel Endeavour. My crew and I were mapping star systems when the Korath attacked us, Jake Morrison. The name sounded strange, but somehow right. Zekthara found herself thinking about her own home, a small planet in the Kepler system where she had been born and raised. She remembered the feeling of safety that came from being surrounded by family and familiar places. The bidding begins in 1 hour, the guard reminded her. If you are not serious about purchasing, please move along. Zekthara looked at her account balance on her personal datapad. She had enough credits saved to buy the engine parts her ship needed, with a small amount left over for emergency supplies. If she bought the human, she would have to delay repairs and risk being stranded in space, but something about Jake Morrison made her think of her own son, who had died in an accident 5 years ago. The human had the same stubborn look in his eyes, the same refusal to give up even when faced with impossible odds. I need to think about this, she told the guard, then walked away from the cage. Vexner followed her, clearly agitated. Captain, you cannot be serious about this. We barely have enough credits for the parts we need, and humans are supposed to be dangerous. He asked to go home, Zekthara said simply. So do most slaves. No, they do not. They ask for freedom, for mercy, for death. He asked to go home. She paused near the exit to the slave pens. How dangerous can one small human be? An hour later, Zekthara found herself in a bidding war with 3 other buyers. The Korath auctioneer was clearly enjoying himself as the price climbed higher and higher. Representatives from 2 fighting pit operations were determined to acquire the human, while a wealthy collector from the core worlds seemed interested in adding a new species to his private menagerie. When the bidding reached 70,000 credits, Zekthara was ready to give up. She simply did not have that kind of money. But then she remembered the look in Jake Morrison's eyes, and she made a decision that would change everything. 80,000 credits, she called out, using every credit she had plus the emergency fund she had been saving for years. The other bidders hesitated. At that price, the human was no longer a profitable investment. One by one, they dropped out of the auction. When the gavel fell, Zekthara owned 1 human named Jake Morrison. The transfer of ownership was quick and efficient. The Korath guards removed Jake's chains and handed him over to Zekthara's custody. He stood quietly as the paperwork was completed, his eyes never leaving her face. Thank you, he said when they were finally alone. 2 simple words, but they carried a weight that seemed to resonate through the station's hull. As they walked back to the wind caller, Zekthara wondered what she had gotten herself into. She had just spent her life savings on a creature she knew nothing about, from a world she had never heard of. All because he had asked to go home. Jake Morrison walked beside her without complaint, even though she knew he must be in pain from his injuries. He looked around the station with curious eyes, taking in the alien architecture and the various species they passed. When they reached the docking bay where the windcaller waited, he stopped and stared at her ship. She is beautiful, he said, and Zekthara felt an unexpected surge of pride. The windcaller was old and worn, but she was home. As they boarded the ship, Zekthara realized she had no idea what to do with a human. She had purchased him on impulse, driven by something she could not fully understand. Now she had to figure out how to care for a being from a species that might not even breathe the same air she did. But when Jake Morrison looked at her again and said, "Thank you for the second time," she knew she had made the right choice. She just had no idea that her act of kindness had set in motion events that would soon bring the full attention of Earth to the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same. The alarm bells in the Earth Defense Command Center had been silent for 3 months, but today they screamed with an urgency that made Director Lisa Hayes drop her coffee cup. The hot liquid splashed across her desk, soaking through the reports she had been reviewing. But she ignored the mess and focused on the flashing red lights that meant only one thing. A human quantum signature had been detected moving through space. Hayes ran through the sterile corridors of the underground facility, her footsteps echoing off the metal walls. The command center was buried 3 miles beneath the Rocky Mountains. hidden from any alien eyes that might be watching Earth. It was humanity's greatest secret, the nerve center of their preparation for the day when they would meet other intelligent species. That day had apparently arrived. Dr. Ryan Carter was waiting for her in the main control room, his face pale and his hands shaking as he pointed at the massive display screen. Charts and graphs covered every inch of the wall, showing data streams that only a handful of people on Earth could understand. "Tell me everything," Hayes said, settling into her command chair. Carter adjusted his glasses and began reading from his tablet. At 0347 hours this morning, our deep space monitoring stations detected a quantum resonance pattern moving through what appears to be a hyperspace corridor. The signature matches Jake Morrison, survey team leader of the exploration vessel Endeavour. Hayes felt her heart skip a beat. Jake Morrison had been declared missing in action 3 months ago when his ship failed to return from a routine mapping mission to the Kepler 442 system. The Endeavour had been equipped with the most advanced technology Earth could produce, including quantum beacons that would allow them to track the ship anywhere in the galaxy. "Are you certain the reading is accurate?" she asked. "I have run the analysis 17 times, Carter replied. "The quantum signature is unique to each individual human. There is no possibility of error. Jake Morrison is alive and moving through an alien transportation network." The implications hit Hayes like a physical blow. If Jake was alive and traveling through alien space, it meant several things. First, humanity was not alone in the universe. Second, other species had technology far beyond anything Earth possessed. Third, and most importantly, Jake was either cooperating with aliens or being held prisoner by them. General Patricia Stone entered the control room, her military bearing unchanged despite the early hour. She had been awakened by the same alarms, and had dressed quickly in her standard uniform. Her gray hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her blue eyes were sharp with focus. "What is the situation?" Stone asked. Hayes gestured to the display screen where a three-dimensional map showed Jake's movement through space. "One of our people is alive and traveling with aliens. We need to decide how to respond." Stone studied the data for several minutes before speaking. "If Morrison is alive, then his crew might be alive too." The Endeavour carried 12 people, all of them trained explorers and scientists. "If they are being held prisoner, we have a responsibility to rescue them." "And if they are cooperating willingly?" Hayes asked. "Then we need to know what they have told the aliens about Earth." The conversation was interrupted by a soft chime from the communication system. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Murphy, the facility's intelligence officer, appeared on the main screen. His face was grim as he delivered his report. "Directors, we have a problem. Our listening posts have detected increased alien communication traffic in the sectors where Morrison's signature was detected. Someone is very interested in humans, and word is spreading fast." Hayes closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Humanity had always known this day would come. They had found evidence of alien civilizations in the ruins scattered across dozens of worlds, in the derelict ships that drifted between stars, and in the star maps carved into ancient monuments. But they had never made contact with living aliens. The decision had been made years ago by the Global Defense Council. When first contact finally happened, humanity would be ready. Earth's best scientists and engineers had spent decades developing weapons and defenses based on recovered alien technology. The planet was protected by an invisible network of defense satellites, and every major nation had ships capable of interstellar travel, but none of their preparations had accounted for the possibility that first contact would happen because one of their own people had been captured. "What are our options?" Stone asked. Carter pulled up a new display showing Earth's available resources. "The stealth ship Harbinger is currently in the outer system, conducting training exercises. It could be deployed to track Morrison's quantum signature within 6 hours. What about the crew?" Hayes asked. "Captain Alex Rodriguez is one of our best. His team includes specialists in alien technology, linguistics, and combat operations. If anyone can handle first contact, it is them." Stone nodded slowly. I recommend we deploy the Harbinger immediately. Primary mission is to locate and assess the situation. Secondary mission is to establish contact with any aliens holding our people. And if they are hostile? Hayes asked. Then we find out exactly how effective our preparations have been. The decision was made quickly. Within an hour, the Harbinger was moving toward the outer system, its advanced stealth technology making it invisible to most forms of detection. Captain Rodriguez and his crew of 20 specialists were briefed on their mission during the journey. Meanwhile, in a secure facility in Geneva, the Global Defense Council was holding an emergency session. Representatives from every major nation sat around a circular table, their faces lit by the glow of holographic displays. The news that humanity was no longer alone in the universe had reached the highest levels of government. The implications are staggering, said Dr. Amanda Foster, the Council's chief scientist. If aliens have captured one of our people, they may have access to information about Earth's location, our technology, and our defenses. Or, suggested Ambassador Carlos Mendez, they may have rescued him. We should not assume hostile intent until we have more information. The debate continued for hours, but the conclusion was inevitable. Earth would respond to this crisis with strength and determination. If Jake Morrison was being held prisoner, they would rescue him. If he was cooperating with aliens, they would find out why. And if Earth faced a threat from hostile species, they would be ready to defend themselves. Back in the command center, Hayes watched the Harbinger's progress on the main display. The ship was moving faster than any human vessel had ever traveled, pushing the limits of technology that had been reverse-engineered from alien artifacts. Within days, they would know the truth about what had happened to Jake Morrison and his crew, but Hayes had a feeling that the truth would be more complicated than anyone expected. In her 30 years of military service, she had learned that first contact scenarios never went according to plan. Aliens might be friendly, hostile, or something in between. They might see humans as equals, threats, or curiosities. What worried her most was the possibility that humans might be seen as something else entirely. The ancient ruins they had found suggested that humanity's predecessors had been feared throughout the galaxy. If aliens still remembered those old legends, first contact might be more dangerous than anyone realized. The quantum signature continued to move through space, carrying Jake Morrison toward an unknown destination. Behind him, the most advanced ship in Earth's fleet followed silently, its crew prepared for anything they might encounter. Neither Jake nor his rescuers knew that their meeting had already changed the course of galactic history. In the dark spaces between stars, ancient powers were stirring, and the name human was being whispered in languages that had not spoken it. For 1,000 years, the galaxy was about to remember why it had once feared the children of Earth, and this time humanity was ready to remind them. Overlord Thexmar had ruled the Korath Syndicate for 20 years, and in that time he had never allowed anyone to steal from him. His massive form filled the command throne aboard the battlecruiser destroyer, his reptilian features twisted. With rage as he studied the report from Korath Station, the human was gone. Explain to me again how a simple merchant was able to purchase my property, Thexmar hissed, his voice carrying the dangerous edge that had made him feared throughout the galaxy. General Krathel stood at attention before the throne, his own reptilian features showing the stress of delivering bad news to his master. The auction was conducted according to standard procedures, Overlord. The Kepler merchant had sufficient credits to complete the purchase. The human was worth 10 times what she paid, Thexmar roared, his claws scraping against the metal armrests of his throne. That creature could have provided us with the location of Earth itself. Do you understand what we have lost? Krathel nodded slowly. The discovery of a new species always meant new opportunities for the Syndicate. New worlds to raid, new populations to enslave, new technologies to steal. But humans were different. The stories about them had been circulating through the galactic underworld for decades, tales of incredible warriors who could fight impossible odds and win. The merchant vessel is called the Windcaller, Krathel reported. Captain Zekthara, a female Kepler with a clean record. She trades in industrial equipment and rare minerals. I do not care about her record, Vexmar snapped. I care about getting my property back. Deploy 3 battle cruisers and a full escort. Find the Windcaller and bring me the human alive. And the merchant? Kill her. Make sure word spreads that stealing from the Korath Syndicate has consequences. Within hours, the largest Korath fleet in a generation was moving through hyperspace, following the trail of the Windcaller. The hunt for Jake Morrison had begun, and it would soon become the most dangerous chase in galactic history aboard the Windcaller. Jake was slowly recovering from his injuries. Zekthara had converted a small storage compartment into temporary quarters for him, complete with a sleeping mat and basic hygiene facilities. The ship's medical bay was designed for Kepler physiology, but Jake had assured her that humans were adaptable. Your people heal quickly, Vexner observed as he watched Jake move around the ship without the obvious pain he had shown the day before. We have to, Jake replied, helping to adjust a faulty power coupling. My species has a saying, what does not kill you makes you stronger. The human had proven to be surprisingly helpful during the journey. His knowledge of engineering principles seemed to translate across species barriers, and his suggestions had improved the ship's efficiency by 15%. More importantly, he had begun teaching the crew basic human concepts and customs. Tell us about Earth, Zekthara said during their evening meal. The ship's food synthesizer had been adjusted to produce something resembling human nutrition. Though Jake admitted it tasted nothing like real food, Jake's eyes grew distant as he described his homeworld. It is a blue planet, mostly covered by water. The land masses are green and brown, with white clouds that move across the sky. We have only one sun, but it provides everything we need. One sun? Vexner asked, clearly surprised. How do your people regulate their sleep cycles? We have a single large moon that orbits our planet. It creates a regular pattern of light and darkness that we call day and night. The concept seemed alien to the Kepler crew, who came from a world with 3 suns and no natural satellites. But they listened with fascination as Jake described seasons, weather patterns, and the incredible diversity of life on Earth. Your people sound peaceful, Zekthara commented. Jake was quiet for a long moment before responding. We can be peaceful. We can also be incredibly dangerous when threatened. My species has survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and countless wars. We do not give up easily. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert from the ship's sensors. Vexner hurried to the bridge with Jake and Zekthara following close behind. The main display showed 3 large vessels approaching from hyperspace, their weapon systems already powered up. Korath battle cruisers, Vexner reported, his voice tight with fear. They are demanding we surrender the human. Zekthara felt her blood run cold. She had expected the Korath to be angry about losing their property, but she had not expected them to respond with military force. 3 battle cruisers represented enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. Can we outrun them? Jake asked. Not in a straight chase, Zekthara replied. But I know these systems better than they do. We might be able to lose them in the asteroid fields near Vega. The next several hours became a deadly game of cat and mouse. The Windcaller was faster and more maneuverable than the massive Korath vessels, but it was also much more fragile. A single direct hit from their weapons would destroy the merchant ship completely. Jake proved invaluable during the chase. His human intuition seemed to anticipate the Korath tactics, and his suggestions allowed them to stay ahead of their pursuers. When the enemy tried to box them in using a pincer movement, Jake recommended using the gravity well of a nearby gas giant to slingshot away from the trap. How did you know they would do that? Vexner asked after they had escaped the latest ambush. My people have been fighting wars for thousands of years, Jake replied. We understand tactics and strategy in ways that most species do not. But the chase was taking its toll. The Windcaller's engines were overheating, and several systems had failed under the stress of constant maneuvering. During a brief stop at a neutral trading post to make emergency repairs, Jake made a decision that would change everything. I need to contact my people, he told Zekthara. They need to know I am alive, and you need help that only Earth can provide. Zekthara was hesitant. Contacting Earth would reveal the existence of galactic civilization to an unknown species. But looking at the damage to her ship, and knowing that the Korath would never stop hunting them, she realized they had no choice. The trading post long-range communication array was old and unreliable, but it was powerful enough to reach Earth. Jake composed a message in his native language, then translated it into Standard Galactic for the benefit of anyone who might intercept it. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earth Survey Ship Endeavor. I am alive and in need of assistance. The Korath Syndicate has declared war on anyone who aids me. I am currently with friends aboard the merchant vessel Windcaller. Earth Command, please respond. The message was transmitted on multiple frequencies, bouncing off relay stations throughout the galaxy. Within minutes, it had been intercepted by intelligence networks belonging to every major power in known space. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Korath fleet doubled in size as reinforcements arrived from across the syndicate. The Galactic Council called an emergency session to discuss the implications of a new species entering their space. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, long-range sensors detected something that made every military commander in the galaxy pause. A ship was approaching from the direction of Earth, moving faster than anything they had ever seen. Jake Morrison's rescue had become the most important event in galactic history, and the hunters were about to become the hunted. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had once been feared, and this time they were coming prepared for war. The chase continued through 3 more star systems, but now the Korath were no longer the only ones hunting. Earth's response was coming, and when it arrived, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift forever. In the depths of space, the Harbinger had found its target and was moving to intercept. Captain Rodriguez and his crew were about to make first contact with alien civilization, and they were determined to bring their fellow human home. Captain Alex Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, watching the sensor displays with growing concern. The Vega system was crawling with Korath vessels, their dark hulls moving through the asteroid field like predators searching for prey. Somewhere in that maze of rock and metal, Jake Morrison was hiding with the aliens who had rescued him. Status report, Rodriguez ordered. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, his first officer, studied her console before responding. We have identified the merchant vessel Windcaller hiding in Sector 7 of the asteroid belt. 3 Korath battlecruisers are maintaining patrol patterns around the outer system. Rodriguez nodded slowly. The Harbinger was humanity's most advanced stealth ship, designed using technology reverse-engineered from alien artifacts. Its hull was coated with materials that absorbed sensor waves, and its engines produced almost no detectable emissions. But stealth would only help them for so long. Communications, open a channel to the merchant vessel. Rodriguez commanded. The bridge crew worked quickly to establish contact. After several minutes of careful signal routing to avoid detection by the Korath fleet, a response came through. The speakers. The voice was clearly alien, speaking in heavily accented Standard Galactic. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Zekthara of the Windcaller. Please identify yourself. Rodriguez took a deep breath. This was humanity's first official contact with an alien species, and the words he spoke next would be recorded in history books. This is Captain Alex Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Harbinger. We are here to retrieve our citizen and offer our protection to those who have aided him. The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Rodriguez could imagine the alien captain trying to process the implications of his message. Earth was no longer a mystery. Humans had arrived in force, and they were not the primitive species the galaxy had expected. Captain Rodriguez, came Jake Morrison's voice over the CUM system. It is good to hear from home. Commander Morrison, what is your status? I am uninjured and being treated well by Captain Zekthara and her crew. They purchased my freedom from the Korath Syndicate and have been protecting me despite significant danger to themselves. Rodriguez felt a surge of gratitude toward these unknown aliens. They had risked their lives to save a human, and now Earth had a chance to repay that debt. Captain Zekthara, The people of Earth are grateful for your kindness toward our citizen. We would like to meet with you." The response came quickly. "We would be honored to meet with representatives of Earth, but you should know that the Korath fleet is hunting us. They want the human back, and they will not hesitate to destroy anyone who stands in their way. Let us worry about the Korath." Rodriguez replied. An hour later, the Harbinger docked with the Windcaller in the shadow of a massive asteroid. The two ships were hidden from sensor detection, but Rodriguez knew they had limited time before the Korath discovered their location. The airlock cycled open, and Rodriguez got his first look at an alien being. Captain Zekthara was taller than most humans, with purple skin and large eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. Her movements were graceful and precise, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had spent years commanding a starship. "Captain Rodriguez," she said in accented but clear Standard Galactic, "welcome aboard the Windcaller." "Thank you for saving our man," Rodriguez replied, offering his hand in the traditional human greeting. Zekthara looked at his extended hand with curiosity, then mimicked the gesture. Her skin was warm and slightly rough, but the handshake felt natural. Jake Morrison appeared behind his rescuer, looking healthier than Rodriguez had expected. The reports from Earth had suggested he might be injured or traumatized, but the man who greeted him seemed alert and determined. "Captain, it is good to see you," Jake said, "but we have a problem. The Korath Syndicate has deployed a significant fleet to recapture me. They believe I can provide information about Earth's location and defenses." "Can you?" Rodriguez asked. "Some, but not enough to compromise our security. The real issue is that my rescue has revealed humanity's existence to the galaxy. Word is spreading and every major power is wondering what kind of species we are." Rodriguez nodded. This was exactly what Earth's leaders had feared. First contact was supposed to be controlled and carefully managed. Instead, it had happened because of a rescue mission in the middle of a criminal conflict. "Captain Zekthara, can you tell me about the galaxy we have entered?" Rodriguez asked. The alien captain gestured toward the main display, which showed a three-dimensional map of local space. "The galaxy is divided among several major powers. The Galactic Council maintains peace among the civilized worlds, but large areas are controlled by criminal syndicates like the Korath. Your species has become a subject of great interest because humans are legendary in the underworld." "Legendary how?" "Stories have circulated for decades about incredible warriors who could fight impossible odds and win. Most species believed humans were myths, but your arrival has proven the legends true." Rodriguez felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity had been preparing for first contact for years, but they had assumed they would be seen as a new and unknown species. Instead, they were apparently already famous, and their reputation was based on their ability to wage war. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert from the Harbinger's sensors. Lieutenant Commander Kim's voice crackled through the COM system. "Captain, we have multiple contacts approaching our position. The Korath fleet has found us." Rodriguez looked at Zekthara, who was studying her own sensor displays with growing alarm. "How many ships?" she asked. 3 battle cruisers and 12 escort vessels, Kim reported. "They are moving to surround this asteroid field. We need to leave now," Rodriguez said. "Captain Zekthara, I invite you and your crew to transfer to the Harbinger. We can protect you better than your ship can. I thank you for the offer, but the Windcaller is my home. I will not abandon her," Rodriguez understood. A ship was more than just transportation to a spacefaring people. It was home, livelihood, and identity all combined. "And then we fight together." "Your ship is small," Zekthara observed. "How can you hope to face 3 battle cruisers?" "You are about to find out what makes humans legendary," Rodriguez replied. The Korath fleet had arrived in force, their weapons systems already charging as they moved to surround the asteroid field. General Krathel broadcast his demands across all frequencies. "Surrender the human, and we will allow the others to live. Resist, and we will destroy you all." Rodriguez activated the Harbinger's communication system and responded on the same frequency. "This is Captain Alex Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. You are holding the wreckage of one of our survey vessels and have enslaved one of our citizens. You have exactly 1 minute to surrender before we consider this an act of war." The silence that followed was broken by confused chatter from the Korath fleet. Rodriguez could imagine their commanders trying to understand how a single small ship could threaten their entire force. "Captain," Jake said quietly, "they do not understand human psychology. The concept of fighting against impossible odds is alien to most species." "Then it is time they learned," Rodriguez replied. The minute expired and the Korath fleet opened fire. The battle for Jake Morrison's freedom had begun, and with it, humanity's violent introduction to galactic civilization. The galaxy was about to discover that the legends about humans were not exaggerated. If anything, they had understated the truth. The first Korath plasma bolts lit up the asteroid field like deadly fireworks, their green energy tearing through space where the Harbinger had been moments before. Captain Rodriguez threw his ship into a spiraling dive between two massive rocks, using the gravitational fields to accelerate beyond what most species could survive. "All hands, brace for combat maneuvers," Rodriguez announced as the ship shuddered under the stress of extreme acceleration. The human crew pressed themselves into their seats, their bodies adapted through millions of years of evolution to handle forces that would crush most alien species. "Lieutenant," Commander Kim tracked the Korath vessels on her sensors, watching as they moved to surround the asteroid field. 3 battle cruisers, 12 escort ships. They are trying to box us in." "Let them try," Rodriguez replied, spinning the Harbinger through a gap barely wider than the ship itself. The move would have been impossible for any other species, but human reflexes and tolerance for G-forces made it merely difficult. On the bridge of the lead Korath cruiser, General Krathel watched in disbelief as the tiny human ship danced between asteroids like it was performing some kind of ritual dance. "How are they moving like that?" he demanded. "Unknown, General," his tactical officer replied. "Their ship should have been destroyed by those acceleration forces, but they seem unaffected." Krathel had fought battles across the galaxy for 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this. The human ship was smaller than most of his escort vessels, yet it moved with a precision and speed that defied understanding. More troubling was the fact that it showed no signs of retreating despite being vastly outnumbered. Aboard the Windcaller, Captain Zekthara watched the battle unfold on her sensors with growing amazement. The human ship was fighting like no vessel she had ever seen, using the asteroid field as both shield and weapon. When a Korath escort moved too close to a large rock, the Harbinger somehow caused the asteroid to shift position, crushing the alien ship against its neighbor. "How are they doing that?" Vexener asked in wonder. Jake Morrison smiled grimly as he watched his fellow humans fight. "Humans have been using tools and changing their environment for millions of years. We see the asteroid field not as an obstacle, but as a weapon waiting to be used." The battle continued for 20 minutes, with the Harbinger striking from unexpected angles and disappearing before the Korath could respond. 2 escort ships had been destroyed, and a third was drifting powerless after its engines were somehow disabled by flying debris, but the human ship was not invincible. A lucky shot from one of the battle cruisers caught the Harbinger's port engine, sending the vessel spinning out of control. Emergency alarms filled the bridge as damage reports flooded in. "Engine 2 is offline," Kim reported. "Hull breach in Section 7. We have lost 30% of our power." Rodriguez studied his options quickly. The Harbinger was still functional, but it could no longer outrun the Korath fleet. In any normal engagement, this would be the time to retreat or surrender. But humans were not normal, and Rodriguez was about to demonstrate why his species had become legendary. "All hands, prepare for ramming speed," Rodriguez announced calmly. The word sent a chill through every alien listening to the communication channel. The concept of deliberately sacrificing one's ship and crew to damage the enemy was unknown in galactic warfare. Most species valued survival above victory, and the idea of mutual destruction was alien to their thinking. General Krathel felt ice form in his veins as he watched. The human ship turned directly toward his battle cruiser. "They cannot be serious," he muttered. "No species would willingly destroy themselves." But the Harbinger was accelerating directly at the massive Korath vessel, its remaining engines pushed beyond their design limits. Rodriguez had found the largest enemy ship and was planning to ram it at full speed. Trading his small vessel for a massive battle cruiser, the psychological impact on the Korath crew was devastating. They had spent their entire lives believing that all intelligent species shared their desire for self-preservation. The idea that an enemy would willingly die to defeat them shattered their understanding of warfare. "Evasive maneuvers," Krathel ordered, but his voice lacked conviction. The battlecruiser was too large and slow to avoid the much smaller human ship. At the last possible second, Rodriguez pulled the Harbinger into a sharp turn that brought his ship's hull scraping against the Korath vessel's shields. The maneuver should have killed everyone aboard both ships, but human tolerance for extreme forces allowed the crew to survive. What would have been fatal to most aliens, the Harbinger's hull tore open along its entire length, venting atmosphere and debris into space. But the ship's weapons had been in direct contact with the Korath shields, and the energy discharge overloaded the battlecruiser's defensive systems. Secondary explosions rippled through the alien vessel as its power grid failed. "General," the Korath tactical officer reported in a shaking voice, "the humans have disabled our main weapons and shield generators. We are defenseless." Krathel stared at the drifting human ship, which was clearly damaged but somehow still functional. In 30 years of warfare, he had never encountered an enemy willing to sacrifice everything for victory. The humans had taught him something about war that he had never imagined possible. "Signal the fleet," Krathel ordered quietly. "We are withdrawing." But before the Korath ships could begin their retreat, something appeared on long-range sensors that made every alien commander in the system pause in terror. 12 new contacts were approaching from hyperspace. Moving in perfect formation, the Earth Defense Fleet had arrived. Admiral Betty Clark stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Vengeance, studying the tactical display with cold satisfaction. The Harbinger had performed exactly as expected, demonstrating human capabilities while buying time for the main fleet to arrive. "All ships battle formation," Clark ordered. The 12 vessels of the rescue fleet moved into position with mechanical precision, their weapon systems charging as they approached the Korath force. Clark activated the fleet communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Betty Clark of the Earth Defense Force. You have attacked our citizens and our allies. You have exactly 10 seconds to surrender before we demonstrate why the galaxy should fear us." General Krathel looked at his tactical display and felt his warrior's heart break. The approaching human fleet was smaller than his force, but after witnessing what a single human ship could accomplish, he no longer believed in the superiority of numbers. "Signal surrender," he ordered. "All ships, power down weapons and prepare to be boarded." The Korath Syndicate, one of the most feared criminal organizations in the galaxy, had surrendered to humanity without firing a shot. The aftermath was swift and decisive. The Korath returned all human prisoners and paid massive reparations to Captain Zekthara and her crew. The Galactic Council, faced with evidence of human military capability and their willingness to go to war for a single citizen, extended an immediate invitation for Earth to join galactic civilization. Captain Zekthara and her crew were granted permanent protected status by Earth, becoming the first aliens to receive human citizenship. Their story spread throughout the galaxy, establishing a new understanding of what humans represented. Jake Morrison returned to Earth as a hero, but he spent the rest of his life working to build peaceful relationships with other species. He often said that the galaxy's greatest discovery was not that humans were dangerous, but that they were loyal. The rescue of one human had started a war, but it had also started something more important. Humanity had announced to the galaxy that they would protect anyone who showed them kindness, regardless of species or circumstance. And in the depths of space, on ships belonging to dozens of different species, crews began to tell stories of the day Earth declared to the universe that friendship with humanity meant protection, loyalty, and the promise that no one would fight alone. The age of human diplomacy had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again.